In this video, we'll talk about graphing equations that are in point-slope form. So before we get to the graphing, let's talk about what we mean by point-slope form. So this one's a little bit strange. I'll go ahead and write it, and then I'll explain it. Okay, so in this one, let's start with M. M is our slope. That much hasn't changed from slope-intercept form. Slope's also known as rate of change. So our change in y over our change in x. That'll be useful to us. Now the difference with point slope is that this x1 and this y1, it's a weird notation, but the idea is x1, y1 is a point on my line. So being careful here, this minus thing, so we have to essentially take the opposite of what we're given for our sign there. Now this is similar to graphing in slope-intercept form in that we'll be given a point, and then from that point we'll apply our slope. The difference here is instead of a y-intercept, we're given a different point. And it's an alternate way of looking at equations. You can also manipulate it to where it is in slope-intercept form. That's always an option on the table. But let's talk about how we would do it. So let's look at an example here. In this case, I'll go ahead and just kind of highlight the pieces. In this case, M is 4. This little 2 here, that's the y1, and this 1 is x1. Okay. So notice we have y minus 2, which tells me y1 is 2. That's cool. Now something we got to be careful about is this plus sign. Technically, we should think about this as x minus a negative 1. Because we need to be subtracting. That's the only way this point-slope thing will work. And that might seem a little strange, but it's how it works out. So let's make our coordinate grid. Now, if we're looking at this, the point here that I'm looking at first, I know the point -1 and +2 are on my line. And I know that because y minus 2, that's my y1, and then the x minus a -1 is technically my x1. So, if we're looking at this, we know we go to the point -1, +2. There's our first point. And then, very much like slope-intercept form, we look at our slope, positive form, meaning I could go right 1 and up 4, which would put me right there on the axis. Or I could go left 1 and down 4. And then we connect our dots. And that would make our line. Kind of another way of thinking about it. It's a little bit different than slope-to-intercept form, at least with the start. Instead of finding the intercept, I'm using a different point, a point that I can glean from the structure. And in complete honesty, it's pretty rare that you'll graph something using point-slope form, but it is possible that you may want to be given a graph and write it in point-slope form. Sometimes it can be very useful going the other way. So there's how to graph with point-slope form. Like I said, similar to slope-intercept form, just slightly different on what point you start with.